Okay, so we're going to cover what the MLC does and does not do. Starting with what we do. The MLC establishes and maintains a public database of musical works ownership information. All of you guys can check that out. It's our public search. It's a great resource. Um, we administer a new blanket license covering mechanical rights available to eligible digital audio services operating in the U.S. We receive and match sound recording usage reporting data from digital audio services with the MLC's musical works ownership data. And lastly, we collect and distribute U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties to music publishers, administrators, foreign CMOs, and self-administered songwriters, composers, and lyricists.
Okay, the MLC does not administer performance rights for musical works or collect performance royalties. That would be your PRO that does that. MLC does not administer digital performance rights for sound recordings or collect digital performance royalties. MLC does not administer mechanical rights or collect mechanical royalties for physical products such as CDs or vinyl. The MLC does not administer any licenses or collect any royalties related to the use of musical works in audio-visual products, otherwise known as synchronization licensing. And lastly, the MLC does not administer licenses or collect royalties for the use of musical works outside of the United States. Like Hayden was talking about earlier, you absolutely can be based outside of the United States, but the royalties that you're generating and collecting through the MLC have been generated inside the U.S. So just to recap, the MLC does not replace your PRO, such as CSAC, ASCAP, BMI, GMR. There's a couple others. And the MLC does not replace Sound Exchange, which is for artists to be able to collect digital performance royalties. So that's an overview of what the MLC does and does not do. With that, Hayden, are you ready to get into some of these great questions?
Fun part. We already got some lined up here.
I do.
Got it. So yeah, so this first question here is just registered a couple songs. Great. That is a good step to take there. And how long does it take to get confirmation back? It takes around 3 weeks for works to be approved. There isn't a confirmation, so just make sure you check the portal, within that 3-week time frame and just, check the status of that. But yeah, you should expect those to be approved or rejected if there's additional information needed within a 3-week window.
Okay, this next question is about how to register my lyrics without having to hook up my content, and how does my content need to be on a platform in order to register my lyrics? So what I think you're asking is, how do I submit my musical work, the composition itself, into the database of the MLC without having to include all the recording information that may be out there on the digital service providers? And do you have to have that stuff out on the digital service providers in order to register your work with the MLC? So the only way that you're going to collect royalties that would flow through the MLC is if a song, the original composition, is recorded out there and available for streaming and download and has generated usage, whether it's streams or downloads in the US. If it's not out there, it's not a waste of time to register your works, but it's not going to get any money until that's being played out there. But having said that, you can register your works in the MLC portal without having to include recording information, although it is helpful to have as much metadata as you can provide. Putting whatever you can in terms of your co-writers and maybe alternative titles and everything that you've got into that work registration process. And one thing I will note, specifically on your question, you refer to lyrics. The MLC is not going to ask you for lyrics on that work. They're going to ask you for a title and recording information if you've got it, and the publishing information on that musical work.
Great. This next question's a good one. So if the song is not published, do we just put ourselves as the publisher and claim 100%? So if you do not have an agreement with an existing administrator or publisher, such as TuneCore or Songtrust, then you would be self-administered here. And so you would register the work if it's not, published and it's not in our database. And if you are the sole writer on this and you get 100% of the royalties for that work, then yeah, you claim it as your self-administered publishing entity claiming 100%. Now, if you do have co-writers where they get 25, you get 50 or something like that, then yeah, you'd adjust those percentages accordingly. But yeah, if you're self-administered and it's not published and you don't have any sort of existing agreement, then you are acting as your own publisher and you're claiming your shares on your behalf.
This is almost a related question. Do you have tips for artists who had pub admin sync deals and now need to sort out their own admin and make sure everything is properly registered? The past admin I had didn't properly administer specifically with the MLC. I know a letter of relinquishment would be needed. So this is a situation where the MLC's public database may come in handy for you. One of the requirements of the Music Modernization Act, which created the MLC, is that we provide a public database of musical works information that we have. So you can use our public search on our website and maybe search up a couple of your titles, enter as much search criteria as you can, and see how those works are registered, or maybe you're noticing that they're not registered. And maybe you'll get an idea from that. And I would encourage you in this case to consider reaching out to our support team if you're really uncertain. And yes, if you do have a letter of relinquishment, we have a process called the catalog transfer process that may be required. But in any case where you've got administration deals that may have ended, or maybe something complicated is going on, reach out to our support team and they can point you in the right direction.
Great. This next one is also a good question. So logging in, you found that your songs are being claimed by another publisher, and you're not aware of any existing agreement between you and that publisher that's claiming those works. This would be likely handled via our conflicts and overclaims process. So yeah, like Leah said with the last request, yeah, reach out to support, provide them with the songs that you would like to claim, the percentage you need to claim on that work, and then any supporting documentation you might have, and then we can ensure that that gets handed to the correct team, and it'll be processed accordingly. But yeah, if you do have any questions or if you do have an example, just reach out to our support team and they can help you.
Awesome. This next question asks, does the MLC use information from ASCAP music reports and Sound Exchange? This is a great question, and no, we do not. We do not share database with any of these entities or any of the other PROs or organizations like that.
Yeah, this is how not to be discouraged about chasing down royalties from streamers, and streamers do not respond. So with the MLC, the digital service providers, such as Spotify, Apple Music, they're required to pay these rates. So there's not any hunting down aspect with this. That is our responsibility to do as a company. So you would just sign up, register your works, and you can expect those royalties to come.
Do you need two different member accounts if you are both the songwriter and the publisher? I'm going to infer that this is what you're asking in your question. Do you need two different sites if you're both? You typically no. If you're a self-administered songwriter, you are acting as a publisher, like we mentioned. So your member name should really be your publishing entity name. And then when you go to register works, you'll have the opportunity to put in your songwriter name. in there and link it as the represented writer that publisher is representing. The MLC, unlike your PRO, is just funneling that publishing share. So I know with PROs, they'll require you to do a percentage for publishing and for writer. But with the MLC in general, you just need that one account. If you're operating as a self-administered songwriter, you are your own publisher. There are exceptions to that if you think that you may need to administer on behalf of somebody else in addition to yourself or anything like that. You can reach out to support and we can make sure that your account is set up how it needs to be. But in general, please don't make extra member accounts if you don't need them because that will make you confused. So try to stick with just your publishing account. It's your primary. Hayden, you're muted, bud.
Oops. Yeah, I was typing an answer, so I didn't want the clicking. Sure, with his agreements with platforms, I still have to claim my royalties by myself. Is there a way to take distributors like this? Yeah, so this user has an agreement with it sounds like an existing administrator, which is the function like DistroKid. How do you take them out of the equation? Yeah, you would want to contact them directly, and if you did have a desire to terminate that agreement and self-administer your works, yeah, you would need to contact them directly to figure out that agreement. And then from there, you would handle this likely via a catalog transfer.
I'm gonna grab this one for us. I'm a producer, beat maker who works with artists who upload the final product from their end. If they are not diligently registering the music on their end for royalty collection, what's the best way to go about it? One important distinction to make here is that if you are not the original composer on the work, I see producer, beat maker, I know that can sometimes be nuanced, but if you are needing to register a portion of a percentage of the publishing share that you are entitled to, then you can go ahead and register your claim on that work. However, if this is just a client where you're helping with the sound recording element, then the MLC is not going to be collecting those types of royalties, and you will need to go to Sound Exchange and contact those other distributors and things like that directly. But if you are entitled to some of the publishing shares as you are entitled to administer your own work, your own portion of the work, then you can register for the portion that you own that copyright for, and then whatever the artist, songwriter, whatever they are owed, they are responsible for doing that themselves in general.
This next question asks, if we register a song with a co-writer, does the co-writer have to be with the MLC? No, but we strongly encourage you to reach out to your co-writers, tell them about what we do, let them know that there's money on the table for them. And then when registering the work itself, you are encouraged to list all the writers on that work just so that when they come in to add their share, it's easy for them to locate those works by their writer name. It just makes the data process a lot easier. But yeah, definitely encourage your co-writers to sign up.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump down to this one because this is a great tool that I want to make sure that we cover today. Somebody's asking about, I got approved as a member and I haven't done this yet, but is there a way to submit works in bulk? I have 50 plus songs. Are there any submission forms to access? So there's a tool we have called a bulk registration tool. It is really just a template. It's an Excel sort of sheet template. If you have Excel, I'd suggest using that. You can also try Google Sheets for it. But yes, it's going to allow you to submit up to 300 rows of data at any given time. And basically, you'll just log in your portal, left-hand panel, scroll down a bit to where it says bulk upload tool, and it'll take you to a page with some tips and tricks on how to format it, and also download that template. Then you'll just fill that out and re-upload it back into the portal. Now, one caveat here is it is a little bit finicky. It's very particular on the formatting. So you want to make sure there's not extra spaces before your title, or things like that. You want to be really careful when filling that out, because otherwise it may give you an error message when you try to upload. We do have a troubleshooting article on the website that can help you kind of figure out any of those error codes if you happen to get them. And if you can't get past those, of course, reach out to support and they'll help you figure out what's going on so that you can get these done all in one time rather than going one by one on those 50 works. So, highly encourage you to check out that bulk upload tool.
This next question is, how do I register songs used in documentaries or films that are not on an album or a song released as a single? You would register them the same, but please keep in mind that the MLC is only collecting those royalties, the digital audio mechanical royalties that would be generated from streaming and downloads from those the digital service providers such as Spotify or Apple Music. So if you did have a score for a movie, if it is on Spotify, yeah, register it and you can collect those royalties. If it's not on any of those DSPs, then you do not need to register it because it will not collect those royalties.
Thanks, Hayden. I'm sorry I'm jumping around. There's a lot of great questions. I want to make sure we have time for as many of these as possible. Um, let's see. This is a great question about how far back does the MLC collect and distribute previous royalties, specifically historically unmatched royalties. So you're right on the money that we do qualify these. When you start looking at your statements, you can see whether something is a historically unmatched royalty or something that's covered in that blanket license. Anything on or after January 1st, 2021, when the MLC went into operation, is going to be considered that blanket license, whereas anything prior to that is going to be historical. MLC is going to collect and distribute anything that was generated dating back to when the sound recording data first became live on that platform in the US. So if I don't know the exact year, so I'm going to use an example here. Don't quote me on this, but if Spotify started in 2008, if your musical work was out on Spotify at that time, the MLC is going to collect that dating back to that date. But sometimes if you're a new member, it can take a few months or a few distribution cycles before you see all that. But yes, essentially we're going to cover as far back as that DSP began.
Got it. This next question here is, what are the splits usually like for mechanical royalties? Is it common to match the splits you have elsewhere, like DistroKid or ASCAP? Um, yeah, I would say it's common, but it obviously depends on whatever agreement you have with your co-writers. For instance, if they get 50% of the mechanicals based on whatever agreement you had, so it can vary. Um, but typically, I guess what you would see is if there are two co-writers and you equally participate in the song, you might see the 50-50, 50%, 50%. But yeah, that really depends on what agreement you have with your co-writers.
If we have songs on DistroKid, we can't have the same songs with the MLC. This depends. If you have a relationship with DistroKid where they are entitled to administer your publishing shares in the US, then they are registering your works with the MLC on your behalf. But DistroKid, being also a music distributor, Your agreement may just be that they are handling the distribution and not the publishing. So I would check your agreement and see what that says. And then your next step from there, I mentioned earlier, but search some of your works in the MLC's public search to see if you can see if they are registering on your behalf or are claiming already. And if not, if you're not seeing those patterns, then you can go ahead and start claiming shares on your works or registering them as new works. But for your first step is going to be to check the agreement that you have with them and see if they are administering on your behalf. And you're muted.
Keeps happening. My
I know,
my
it's
keyboard's
getting
my keyboard's so loud. I'm afraid it's just going to be knocking in everyone's ears here. So this question is: if I have an admin pub deal with a major pub, the admin registers in the MLC and collects that revenue. Yes. So if you do have an admin deal and it covers all of your works, then they are responsible for registering those works and collecting those royalties on your behalf. If it's a partial agreement where they're only doing a handful of songs and you got some songs that you also need to administer yourself, then that would be a partial agreement where you could register those works that are not part of the agreement and collect those royalties. But yeah, if it's a full agreement with that admin, then they're doing all the registration and collection of royalties for you.
Okay, here's a question about the Harry Fox Agency. Does the Harry Fox Agency send musical works information to the MLC? So this is important to discuss. HFA, or otherwise known as the Harry Fox Agency, is one of the MLC's vendors, and the MLC hired HFA to help establish and maintain the musical works database that we've mentioned. So the MLC is required to do that as part of the MMA. And HFA has historically provided a number of services to customers that go beyond just administering these digital audio mechanical rights in the US. The MLC's vendor relationship with HFA doesn't prevent HFA from continuing to provide their other services, so they may be able to license certain things for some of the other things that you've mentioned, Napoleon, in your example here. But so we don't actually interact with any of those other services. However, if you have registered some works that are out there on the DSPs with HFA in the past, you likely do not need to submit new musical works data to the MLC if it already exists with HFA. So I would search that public search information, see what's out there, and if you have any questions, reach out to support so we can make sure we get you access to those if they are yours.
Um, so how long does it take to process the new registration? I'm assuming this is work registration. Like I said earlier, it's around 3 weeks for them to be approved and ingested into your catalog. So yeah, if you do have any questions, if it does extend beyond that 3 weeks, please reach out to our support team and they can provide you with an update.
Noticing that in this group, we've got a good mix of people who are also the artists on their work. So I think that's important to address. And these days, it's common to be the artist and the songwriter and the publisher. So I commend you for doing it all. My music has been distributed by different companies. So my question is the MLC, do they take action for every distribution as I register on it? So when you are interacting with the MLC and putting your information in there, that's related to your copyright ownership of that musical work, the actual melody and lyrics and the composition itself. The stuff that your distributors, whether you have one or you have several, is putting out there is related more often with the sound recording data itself. Sometimes you hear that called the masters. And so MLC has a process called matching, where we review the information that's out there on the DSPs. It's not matched to a musical work composition in our database, and we connect those so that we can say this is how much is going to be owed each distribution cycle period. It's a long way of saying that when you're interacting with the MLC, your only responsibility is to make sure that you're doing your part in terms of the musical works data. The MLC has an internal, both a manual and an automated process that's going to review the sound recording data, no matter what distributor it comes from, no matter what DSP it's on, whether it's on Amazon, Google Play, or some of those other platforms you've never even heard of out there. That's our role, is that we're going to take that and make sure that they know exactly, the correct data of how many times that's been played or downloaded, and what you are owed. And we're going to require that of them under the copyright law. That's where we're allowed and mandated to do that. And then we're going to route that back to you as the composition owner, the publishing rights holder on that work. So yeah, a long way of saying it doesn't really matter how the sound recording data is distributed. If you are entitled to those mechanical royalties digitally, then you're entitled to the royalties.
This next question asks, does the MLC collect royalties for plays, streams on independent radio stations? No. We're only collecting royalties for streams and downloads on the digital service providers, Spotify, Apple Music. This would likely be paid out via your PROs. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to them. But yeah, we do not collect royalties for radio play.
Here's a good one. What are the main pieces of information I need about a work for it to be registered with the MLC? Basics would be title, the songwriters, and the publishing information. Even if you don't have all the writers on there, put the writer that you know and the publisher that you know, which is you probably in this case. And then that's going to be the majority that's required. It helps if you have sound recording data, if you can upload a sound file or include an ISRC or anything like that. It helps, but those are the basics.
I'm going to take these two here, Leah, back to back. How are works connected to the MLC? Is it through the ISRC codes? Yes, it is ISRC codes. That is how that's a good way for us to track down those the data from the DSPs. However, it's not just ISRC codes. It's work title, it's writer names, it's all of that data that you can put there. The performer's name. So when registering the work and you're asked to put that recording data, any information you can put there is what links the data from Spotify and Apple Music and all those other DSPs to your work registration. And then this next question I was going to answer here is, are you advising I register my songs with my publisher and not my songwriter name? Yes, because at the MLC, you're claiming works as your publishing entity on behalf of you as a writer. There's not, unlike PROs, there's not like a writer share and a publisher share. It's just that one publisher share. So when signing up with the MLC, sign up with your publisher name.
Okay, jumping around here a little bit. Can I register my songs if they are just on my YouTube channel? This is a great question. If you have songs out on YouTube and they are just a still image of like album artwork, for example, and the audio is playing under it, then yes, the MLC is going to collect digital audio mechanical royalties on that if there's usage involved. However, if it's a YouTube channel of you just playing the original song live, that's not going to be generated and collected through the MLC from YouTube, because that is considered an audio visual use. So yes and no. It depends. See, Hayden's typing the answer. I'll go ahead and take this one too. Is a publishing administrator required to submit anything else to the MLC on a monthly basis aside from registering or matching works as they are released? No. Once your work is registered with us, and if it's everything's correct on your end, and it lives in the catalog correctly, as long as you've got your banking and tax information on file, there's not going to be something that you have to do on a regular basis in order to collect. The MLC's role is to do that for you and get you paid what you are owed accurately on a time. So no, once everything's established, you shouldn't be having to do monthly work unless you have new claims or catalog movement or things like that happening. So that's a great question. Hayden, you're going to be in Zoom jail.
It clicked it this time. I don't know what's happening. Okay, well, I am unmuted now, hopefully.
Yeah.
So when we register our works with our PRO and the distributor, do they automatically get registered with the MLC? No. So your PRO, that data does not transfer over to the MLC. So you would also need to register the works with the MLC. And same with, yeah, the distributor. It's all separated. Where it does get combined is if you do have an administration agreement with your distributor. I know TuneCore offers publishing as well. If you do have that agreement, then they're responsible for registering your works with the PROs and the MLC. But yeah, it would not transfer over, so you would need to also register it here with the MLC.
Let's see. The MLC does not collect for songs listed on my personal band website, correct? Only on streaming platforms? That's correct. Unless we're collecting from digital service providers where a consumer can go and directly stream or download a song. So if it's just on your website, it's not going to generate digital audio mechanicals.
This next question is, would you want, when registering a work, do you want to list the date first recorded or released? And if the same song is on the compilation as well, is that a separate registration or the same registration? Good question. So you'd want to put the date first released, because that's when we are, that's when it's generating money on the platforms. And then as far as if it is the same song, the composition is exactly the same. You would not need to create two different registrations. Now, if the compilation features a different version of the song, then you might want to consider registering a separate work. But ultimately, yeah, you'd only need one work registration if it's the same work, but on different albums.
Okay, Jenny asked, can you provide a list of all streaming platforms that the MLC collects royalties for? It's a very, very long list. It may be on our website somewhere, but I will say when you are a member with the MLC and you're starting to collect your royalty statements every month, you can get very detailed on there and see exactly the platforms that you're collecting from. But it's very comprehensive because this is required by U.S. law that the platforms report this data to us and pay the MLC so that we can pay you.
Question is, if a song was taken down from Spotify, does the history remain there to collect the past royalties? Yes, it does. You would still register the work the same way. You wouldn't be entitled to future royalties, but you would be entitled to those historical royalties.
Will royalties be paid if another artist covers a song you have written or did a remake of the song? If an artist covers or cuts a song that you wrote and you own the publishing shares on, then yes, you're entitled to collect those royalties. as the original composer, author of that work. So if you're ever in a situation where you've got that work in your catalog, you know that you have written it, you can put it in the matching tool if you're not seeing that the sound recording information is matched to your musical work already, and you can suggest that match, or even just running the search, you may see that artist cover come up and you can suggest it as a match to your work. Oh yeah, thank you, Sarah Ashton, for including that. For the second part of your question about doing a cover, yeah, that's a little bit different, but if you are the original writer of the work and you own that publishing share, then no matter who is cutting the song or recording it, releasing it, if it's generating usage, then you're the one entitled to receive the royalties. Okay, let's see. This is a good one. This one we sort of talked about when we were talking about DistroKid. Does my association with CD Baby limit my ability to be an MLC member and collect royalties? Review your agreement with CD Baby and see if they are administering your publishing shares as well as just your distribution. Because if it's a full exclusive agreement, then technically you're able to become a member, but you don't need to become a member unless you are self-administering some or all of your works. Even if you have one work that's out there, but it's not in that agreement with CD Baby, then you do need to become a member so you can collect on that one work. So it kind of depends, but again, just review your agreement. If you have any questions about it, reach out to our support team and we can help you with that.
Successfully unmuted myself this time. I'm learning. So this question is if songs played on YouTube posted by distributors in other countries besides the US, does the MLC collect royalties for self-administered songwriters? Yeah, so if it is the songs played on YouTube, if they are the art tracks that were distributed by the distributors, where it's just got your album cover and it's put up there by your distributor, then those would be paid out only if those streams are happening in the US. So it's whoever's listening in the US is the one that's helping create those royalties. Now, if they were distributed only in separate countries outside the US, and the US is not, you're not able to stream those art tracks on YouTube here, then you would not be collecting those mechanical royalties here.
Yep, that's correct. We have a great resource about how the royalty rates are set. But this question just generally asks, why are the royalty amounts so low if I'm the self-administered songwriter, also the producer, sound engineer, and everybody else in the industry? That's a loaded question. I think it's just the nature of the music industry. But in terms of the MLC, it's important to remember that digital audio mechanical royalties are just a piece of the pie, and that there is more homework to be done out there if you do have your foot in all of these different areas. And it's just important to do your homework and do your part so that you can collect everything that you're owed when it comes to the Mechanical Licensing Collective.
This looks like we're kind of starting to wind down here. So this question's asking if I do have a pub admin like Song Trust that collects royalties overseas, would that interfere with me collecting my own royalties with the MLC? Like I said earlier, it really only depends on your agreement with Song Trust. If your agreement with Song Trust is that they're responsible for collecting overseas and you manage all the stuff here in the States, then yeah, it shouldn't interfere with you registering works here at the MLC. But yeah, that might be something you want to clarify with your administrator first, just to get an idea of what that agreement is, and then go from there.
I'll grab this one that came in through our chat just because I think this is important. The bulk upload tool maybe is giving you troubles, April. When you upload the template for bulk songs, what happens after that? Um, if you're not seeing those in a few weeks end up in your catalog, sometimes the display takes a moment after the registration actually processes. Reach out to our support team so we can see what might be going on. Because if you had a successful upload, then everything should um, be moved over there to your catalog. But if you're not seeing it, if you're saying it's not working for you, I'm sorry to hear that, but please do reach out to us so we can help you fix that.
So next question is, I release instrumentals on DSPs, and then sometimes later I'll have a singer come in and sing the song under their artist name, and the song title's usually different once that singer is on the work itself. Yeah, I would advise registering them as separate works because that would typically constitute a different composition of the song. It changes the structure of the song. Um, so I would have two different registrations for that. Now, if the songs were exactly the same and a singer didn't hop on it, then you would just need the one registration.
Okay, awesome. Okay, before we run out of time, I thank you for all your questions, and I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to get to every single one of these today, but just for the sake of time, we do want to show you a couple other things and just reiterate that if you have specific questions about your catalog or old agreements or confusing things with the portal, please reach out to our support team and we can help you do that. But first, we do want to show you just some other ways to stay connected with the MLC apart from our social media so that you can stay informed as your own administrator. It's important to know as much as you can. So, Hayden will tell you a little bit more about our podcast.
We're super excited about having a podcast. We're officially podcast bros now. Um, but uh, but yeah, definitely check this out. If you have your phone here, you can scan that QR code. And check out our podcast. You'll find it on anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's a good way for you to learn more about what we do, more about the general landscape of the music industry and royalties, and all the different avenues. It can be complicated, so the podcast definitely helps. Um, but yeah, check us out on there.
Yeah, there's also some really fun interviews with industry people, so love it for that. Another great place to look for information is on the website in that resources tab. This information is broken down by audience. So if you need resources in Spanish or French, you can go here. Or if you are, most of you will probably want to be clicking on this first one, the songwriters option. There's a lot of great articles there as well. And then, of course, for students, if any of you in the group are students or students, there's some really cool educational stuff. And like Hayden was saying, it's about a lot of the industry, not just the MLC. So make sure you click through this if you ever have time. Some really interesting and informative stuff there. And then, of course, we've said it 100 times, but this QR code will take you directly to our support team. They're available 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday Central Time. And you can call, you can chat, or you can email. And we have an amazing, it's real human beings that will help you. So I encourage you to reach out if you need any support whatsoever. Um,
Mhm.
thank you. Our marketing queen is sending you some great links there in the chat as well. So
And they're definitely there for that specialized support. So those of you that do have registration issues or questions about specific catalog transfer or conflicts or whatever, they can provide that help.
That's right. And here is the website link, just again, if you need it. Thank you all so much for joining today. It's means a lot to have you all here and know that you're all taking charge of your music administration needs. And please join us for another webinar in the future. Always a different crowd, always a different set of questions. And we're always glad to spend some time with you on afternoons like this. So thank you for joining.